You mentioned the cut to the fuel excise. It, of course, ends tonight. Given the current pressures on households, should it have been extended?
Well, when we put that policy in place, it was temporary and it was targeted, and that was intentionally so because that was the issue of the day. Now, I don't know what information the Labor government has. We're not privy to that Treasury advice. That's something I think that we will pursue at estimates. What Treasury has been telling this Labor government about whether they should maintain or get rid of the fuel excise cut. But more importantly, what we'd like to see is a holistic plan to deal with the cost of living crisis in Australia, because it's only going to get worse, particularly in the lead up to Christmas, as interest rates rise and those repayments from those rising interest rates kick in. The most important thing here is that if you don't have a plan, you plan to fail. So we really want the government to succeed in this because the cost of failure is way too high. If you don't have a plan to deal with rising interest rates, if you don't have a plan to deal with rising inflation, if you don't have a plan to deal with rising energy bills, and if you don't have a plan to deal with the rising cost of living, well, the cost of failure is so great for all Australians.
Let's talk about ICAC legislation. The federal government unveiled the details of its proposed independent anti-corruption commission legislation. The bill introduced a short time ago. What's your initial reaction to the details, and what do you make of the crossbench demands for more public hearings?
Well, this is a very hefty piece of legislation. There are hundreds and hundreds of pages, and obviously I haven't been through the detail with a fine-tooth comb yet. What I can say, though, is that Peter Dutton, the Leader of the Opposition, has been consulting in a very constructive way with the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, to make sure that a federal ICAC, that the NACC, as it's known now, National Anti-Corruption Commission, will best serve all Australians and capture all of not just the Parliament but also the public service in an entirely appropriate way. We want to make sure that the NACC is something that engenders trust in the public sphere rather than diminishes it, and that's why the appropriate safeguards need to be in place. We want to make sure that all public officials feel confident that the framework within which the Anti-Corruption Commission operates will protect them as well as root out any corruption that is there. That's the only way that you enhance trust in the public sphere rather than diminish it. So things like we want to make sure that the rule of law applies, natural justice, what are the rules of evidence in public hearings and in private hearings, if you're accused, how are your legal bills funded, if you're absolved of any wrongdoing, how is that made public, are you even notified? So all of these things need to be addressed, and that's what we'll be going through in the normal course of analysing legislation. It's going to go through our party room and through the normal processes.
So more public hearings? Do you agree with the crossbench?
Well, normal public hearings, I know, I think are in certain circumstances, special circumstances. I think we want to know what those special circumstances might be. Is
there anything that you think should be referred to the Commission?
I think that the most important thing is that we get the Commission right. That's the way to engender trust rather than diminish trust in the public sphere. We also want to make sure that we don't unnecessarily damage people's reputations, their lives and their livelihoods, their mental well-being. The reason why this is so important, Annika, is because we want to make sure that we attract the best and the brightest people to public life, whether it be in politics as a parliamentarian or as a public official. And if there is something that would threaten their professional reputations, if it's a system that can be politicised, well, that will actually deter people from entering in public life. We want the best people here.
Shadow Finance Minister Jane Hume, we have to leave it there. Thanks for joining us.